Good afternoon, fellow owners and friends of Oakwood Harbor. I'm sorry if it seems like we took a break for a while. Trust me, it wasn't a break. It was just a matter of toning things down until we had an opportunity to speak with the attorney, which we did this afternoon. Both Robert and myself went down and had a long conference with Attorney Ferguson, and our case is strong. As the title states in the beginning of this video, we will be seeking injunctive relief almost immediately. I say almost because we need about 2 weeks of prep time for the initial case to be filed and to be set up, and that's where you come in one more time as owners. For those of you that would like to join the case, if you feel that your owner rights were neglected or abused in any way or shape or form, as demonstrated in the video of the owners meeting, we were ignored. The meeting was shut down without any input from the owners. As a matter of fact, contrary to the input of the owners, because so many people said we're not finished. And based on those facts alone, the attorney feels that not only do we have a very strong case, but also too that we were violated our owner's rights, disregarding the owner's motion, and also shooting down the covenant basically, and saying that it couldn't be made when it could. Again, there's a legal precedence for this, and the attorney has now been fully retained to acquire an injunction relief. Basically what that means is that once we get in front of the judge, or the attorney gets in front of the judge, the argument will be made that not only were our rights violated and we were totally disregarded, and the motion that was not only made and seconded but was carried by the majority of the people that were there, he has the option at that point to rule on it immediately or come up with his own plan, which was suggested that his own plan could be, for instance, to have another court-ordered owners vote and then repeat the vote, basically. How that will actually transpire, it depends a lot on the judge. But what will happen is we will seek a restriction to any further purchases on Oakwood Harbor's accounts, with the exception of essential services, until the matter is resolved. We'll also be seeking relief for the board, the removal of the board and replacement of the board, as well as the rest of the items that were included in the original motion. I posted it online. If any of you haven't had a chance to read it, by all means read it. If you haven't gotten a chance to read it and don't really want to go over it, just want to see a new board, well, that's all well and good. But you do need to know that not only are we seeking to replace the board in its entirety, but also to put some protections into the bylaws. Then, besides the protections, Detail 3 was the immediate restoration of trash services and other essential services, 32-hour work week for the maintenance, cleaning personnel, and road service employees, as well as restoration to a 32-hour work week for the office. Upgrade the failing dump stations, upgrade the key card access to 24-hour freshwater spigots, as well as the laundry facilities, and also the installation of electric and water monitoring devices, so that we can better assess what it's costing to actually do a load of laundry and then make an adjustment in the coins that are needed, basically. These are all things that were put into the original motion, along with the immediate change to increase the owners' meetings to once every 3 months, quarterly, from 2021 to 2023. That gives us plenty of time for the owners to have lots of input, to make owner votes that are required to put bylaws in place, so that even in the event that the trustees are changed later on down the line, whether or not it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line, those protections will remain in place unless the owners themselves actually vote to change it, because it's a bylaw. For too long, things have been modified based on amendments, and that's not a protection to you. Amendments, if they're not challenged within a year, can become customary law of the land for the association, but are not necessarily bylaws. Bylaws, again, have to be voted in by the owners themselves in an owner's vote. So by doing this, you have an opportunity every 3 months to bring a motion to the floor, just as Robert brought his motion to the floor. Only difference is now it'll be laid out in black and white. We won't need a judge's intervention to enforce that bylaw. So also, there were a few other small items that were involved in there, and this again goes towards protections for you. One of those was that we would designate the difference between investor properties and private use properties. The private use properties would stay just the way they are. We think it's wise and prudent, with all the repairs that need to be made, to stay with the $100 per lot. Most people can afford it. Granted, they're not getting their money's worth out of it now, but if there is additional cash flow at this point, it will definitely go a long way to making the improvements and restoring services the way they need to be. But the differentiation between private use and investor use will be a $50 per lot per year reassignment. So this would mean that if you have investment properties that you don't actually use because you live on them or vacation on them, but are just waiting around to fix them up a little bit and make a little money off of it, then Oakwood Harbor needs to get a little bit more cash for those investment properties, because they're making a living at it and you're living on your property. So is vastly different, and that extra revenue coming in will also help for further improvements and repairs to be made. The other one was the codifying electronic notifications, basically meeting attendance, compliance, and voting rights of not only the trustees but the owners through digital media. Miss Leach stood up there the other day and said this is legal now. It's not legal now until you put it into the bylaws. Then it becomes law. They can use it as a policy, but it's not actually a protection for you. So they can change that policy anytime they want to. And again, policy is done by the board of trustees. Bylaws are done by the owners. So if you want to, in the future, not have your right to vote by text or email or whatever the case may be by electronic communications, then it has to be in the bylaws. And then this way here, there's no excuse that your vote was not counted, because they can send you an email and say this is the item that we're voting on, and you respond and your vote is counted. And the nice part, the one thing I really like about text, is that you can take a screenshot and have proof that it was received and accepted. Also too is that it's a track record for the future of how you voted. You can always go back on your emails and your text messages and things like that and see, oh wow, I really did vote in favor of that and I meant not to. It's just a great way of doing things, as opposed to letters getting lost in the mail and tremendous costs associated with the mailing of those ballots. And the last but not least, because we've already talked about the changing of the every 3 months to quarterly, but also too was section 6 was protections against anyone for conflicts of interest, unethical behavior, and purposely withholding information, decisions, or plans that are not fully transparent to the entire community of association members. As we know, many things have gone on behind our backs. Many deals have been made that someone else profited off of, versus the general fund being expanded to allow more repairs and upgrades to be done. So what we've done is codify this into section 6 that would be effective immediately. All future elected trustees, emergency appointees, and floaters added to the board of trustees under the bylaws as currently codified will be subject to signing a trust agreement, and that trust agreement has the protections built into it. So I wanted to go over that really quickly because you need to know what the judge will be ruling on. Now what we need from you is to drop by the attorney's office. The next slide that'll show in a minute is Miss Christy Miller. She'll be taking your signatures as well as any statements that you'd like to make to add to the record, but they will be representing the entirety of Oakwood Harbor property owners, not the trustee board. These people have been hired to represent you and me and all the rest of the owners. So when you get a moment, swing by the office. They are open 9 to 4, Tuesday through Friday. They did say that it was prudent to call and make sure that they were actually open, because they do take lunch. And also, if you'd like, make an appointment so that you can go in directly. I am exploring some other options as far as similar to the proxy voting, but I haven't received an answer on that yet. So personal appearance is probably best anyway, so that you get an opportunity to fill in Miss Miller, who will be putting the case together with any information that you might have that you may find beneficial to you or your case in the future if you need to. But most of all, just show up, sign the paper, and add your name to the owners that are petitioning the court for relief. Again, this was done by owner contributions. Several owners have actually contributed to this, including myself and Robert. We have all put a lot of time into this. If you want change, we're not going away. You've seen that all through September to now. We're trying our very best to bring Oakwood Harbor into the 21st century, and to do that we need your assistance. I'm not running for the board myself. I have mentioned to Robert that if they would like to have me help them or consult with them in regards to oversight or planning, such as writing these types of protections or other means, I'd be more than happy to help out. But I've found that that's probably not the best place to have me in a position of authority. I don't want it, never have wanted it from the beginning. And the list on the original motion had the persons that were selected to represent you. People like Karen Combs, who has resigned because of what was going on and knows how the system works and how things are operated. Anthony Wright, as vice president, who you have all come to know and appreciate. These are just a few of the people. Robin Foster, who's been fighting to get her property fixed for years. These are people that aren't afraid to stand up for you. Kayla Mariah Lynn, same situation, not afraid to stand up for you. These are people that if the injunction is granted, will either take power immediately or however the judge decides to do it. But we need your signatures to get that done. I will pause this for a second and I cover one or two more things and then move on. Take down the address and the name, Christy Miller. It's coming up in the next slide, and I'll wrap this up as quickly as possible so we're not spending a lot of time watching videos. Okay, hopefully you had an opportunity to take down that name and address and telephone number and get a hold of Miss Miller and put your name on the list of affected owners. And we'll look forward to as many of you as possible. And for those of you that have contributed, thank you. For those of you that want to contribute a couple dollars more, feel free. There are some other expenses that are probably going to come up, but we'll work with it when the time comes, just as we have all along. But if you can't afford to chip in towards the attorney, then thank you for that. We've put up a fair share, and I'll leave it at that. To quickly wrap this up, one of the other items I wanted to touch on real quick was, everybody has always said, I mean, besides the $50 extra for investors, how are we going to afford this? How are we going to afford that? One of the items in that motion also was to look into the sale of the remaining waterfront lots, the only waterfront lots that allow boat access legally and legitimately. But this time to use those funds to upgrade the septic systems and other failing items throughout the history of the association. that seems to be a routine thing. How are we going to afford it? There's a lot of plans in place to actually cut our expenses, but we also want to look at selling the additional 17 lots that are left. There were 18 altogether. We know one person already bought one of them and built a boat dock, so it is doable. We just need to figure out how much they can be sold for and who their first option would be, such as the owners themselves and the neighboring people to them. Also, this is not my civil lawsuit. The civil lawsuit comes up on the 10th of May at 2 p.m. and any of you that are willing to be there and be a witness and speak to the judge on behalf of Oakwood Harbor owners and their failure in the past year to actually meet their obligations, you're more than welcome to. You're more than welcome to file on your own if you'd like to. Again, I want to point out, though, that this upcoming litigation of my own for this is twofold. Number one, I am going to seek relief for the pain and suffering that has been caused to my reputation, and there will be slander cases, by the way, on 2 individuals in particular. I won't go into that right now, but those will be directed primarily at the trustees or persons that have put that information out there. And again, these are completely separate. If the lawsuit is granted and the relief is ordered, a lot will depend on what happens. I'm not out to hurt Oakwood Harbor. What I'm really out for is to get this information in front of a judge. I verified today that it is within the power and purview of the judge to order an outside independent audit of all transactions made in the last year, or even further if the judge decides to go a little bit further, to see who, if anyone, was doing any inside trading or maybe misappropriating funds, moving cash around from one account to another without proper legal authority. It is within his purview, so that's what I really want to get in front of him. I do have more than enough evidence that some deals were made, and that evidence has been already shared with the court, so we will get in front of a judge and hopefully he'll do something about it. That's my prime objective. If an award is granted, it's up to the person who wins the award to enforce it, and I'm not out to hurt Oakwood Harbor. If we can actually make some changes in this place so that everybody has an equal footing and an equal voice and input as to how Oakwood Harbor moves forward in the future, that's what I'm really after. So I don't need to necessarily chase the dollars. It's never been a situation where I was trying to make a profit off of this. If anything, this has cost us a tremendous amount of time and effort and cash, and also people's reputations have been sullied. There's a lot going on that we're all pretty much aware of now, but the whole point is, I just wanted to point out that that's not what it's about, and it is a separate case. The attorney will be representing the owners of Oakwood Harbor and looking for an injunction to enforce the vote that was made by those owners. My case is completely separate, and I just wanted you all to know that and to know the reasoning behind it. There are a lot of people that have already given even more information, so I feel it will be successful, but we'll see how it turns out. Either way, I'll wrap it up with here. I just wanted to cover those couple of quick points before I wrapped it up. I'm sure that Bob will jump on at any time soon and give you his side of it, because both of us were there at the meeting. But suffice it to say that, again, we're not going away. This situation needs to be remedied. We need to eliminate the people that are serving on the board that are related and or married. We need to eliminate the insider trading, the shady practices, the lack of communication. And if nothing else has pointed that out to you, I would say it should have the last couple of weeks, because we were all shut down at that meeting. The meeting was fully recorded, and thank you to Courtney for doing so, because it has shed a tremendous amount of light on the subject for not only the owners that have been abused by this and neglected their rights to act as owners, but also too for those people that have been home and not really paying attention. We need people on that trustee board that live here. We don't need people that live an hour or two away and come down here once or twice a month and have absolutely no clue what's going on. This is what we're trying to accomplish here, and I would hope that you all stand behind us and just take a moment out of your time and swing by the office and sign the injunction and put your name on the list as one of the owners that has been hurt or has suffered some kind of loss based on this. And that includes, like I said, if they haven't kept your roads up and you don't feel like you're getting your money's worth out of this contractual agreement, which is what it is, then even that will make a difference to the judge when he decides to initiate the injunction, and also to whether or not he decides at that point to restrict any further purchases until such time as the case is resolved or the audit is made, because he can also order it himself. Naturally, my case is coming up first, so it just depends on what judge we're in front of and what he decides to do. But either way, thank you so much for getting us this far. For all of those that have contributed, I'm not mentioning any names because I don't know whether or not those people wanted to remain anonymous. So if you have contributed, it's a big thank you from both me and Bob, and a relief because we've been shouldering a lot of this on our own. And for those of you that have given information throughout the months and been a part of this, we thank you. We thank you for showing up at the meeting, and hopefully we will make this all a much better place for all of us.